Hi there! Thank you so much for joining me. This is Julie DiMatteo from thepaperpixie.com, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the US. And in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this super cute little pineapple treat box. How awesome is this? I want to give credit to fellow Canadian demonstrator Martha Inchley for this fabulous idea. I fell in love with it. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock that measures 4 inches by 6 inches. And along the 4-inch side, you want to score at 1 inch and 3 inches. And then I'm going to flip the cardstock over and we're going to score at 1.5, 2, and 2.5. All right, and we flipped over the cardstock because we're going to score the paper in different ways. Now I'm going to put this on the 6-inch side, and we're going to score this at every inch, but stopping at that first horizontal score line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 1 inch, stop at that first horizontal score line, and then continue. 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, and 5 inches. We're going to make a couple of tick marks while we're here. Let me show you the template briefly. We're going to be creating some tabs along the top and the bottom, and I want to angle them in a way that will help the box go together nicely. So I'm actually going to put little tick marks at every 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch increment here. And all I'm going to do is basically just take the ball of my stylus and press at each 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch. So 1 1/4, 1 3/4, 2 1/4, 2 3/4. I think you get the idea. 3 1/4, 3 3/4. Just continue all the way down. Those little tick marks are going to help us make our little cut lines that we need. I'm skipping this left box here because we're actually going to end up cutting that section away. So now I'm just going to rotate 180 degrees and we're going to repeat the same process. So scoring at every inch, stopping at the vertical score line. And then we're going to do our little tick marks at every 1/4 and 3/4 inch. And on this side, we can exclude this rightmost box because we're going to cut that one away. Now you can certainly make pencil marks here. I just don't want to have to erase the mark. So I'm just going to use my Simply Scored to make those tick marks. All right, so now we're done with the Simply Scored. The next step that we're going to do is create these diagonal score lines. And I'm just going to do that using a ruler and the stylus from my Simply Scored. And I just want to point out what we're planning to do is do these score lines at a 45-degree angle. And basically what that means is taking it from, for example, this point at a diagonal, but we're moving over 2 score lines. So that is kind of the angle that we're going after. And we'll continue that all the way down. And then you'll see we have these little short diagonal score lines here. This one comes from this point down to that middle score line. This one comes from the middle score line down to this point. And then we'll repeat the same process going the opposite direction. Now, if you happen to have the retired diagonal plate from Stampin' Up!, that will make this process much, much faster. Unfortunately, it is retired and not available for purchase, but I'm hoping they'll bring it back someday because I love that tool. All right, so I'm just going to basically take the ball of my stylus, place that where I want to start scoring because you do want to compensate for that ball tip there. And I know you're not going to be able to see this very easily, but again, we're going to score from here down to inch score lines over. And I'm only doing the diagonal score lines in the center section. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've completed the one direction, and now I'm going to do the same thing in the opposite direction. Okay, now all of those diagonal score lines are done. I know that might be hard for you to see, but there's that really cool kind of quilted pattern. All right, so now what we're going to do is start to do some of the cutting away. Let me bring back the template again. I'm going to grab my paper snips, and essentially what we're going to do is I'm going to cut from the tick mark at the diagonal. So I've got the paper kind of turned this way. So I'm cutting from the tick mark at the diagonal, so where that 1-inch score line meets the horizontal score line. You can just line that up with your scissors. And then we're also going to cut away this entire corner section. Okay. Then I'm just going to go down the line, again, just cutting from the tick mark down to the intersection of those 1-inch score lines. All right, now I'm going to repeat the same process along the bottom edge. Again, we're going to cut away this leftmost square. Okay, now the last thing we're going to cut away are these two little triangle sections here and here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. This part is optional, but I love this idea from Martha because it gives you a really cool seam on the box that's almost impossible to see. Otherwise, you'd have a straight seam that makes it much easier to see when you put the box together. So there we are. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to punch some holes before we fold and burnish these score lines. And what I ended up doing was I actually created a little template here. This just helps me kind of eyeball where to put that hole punch. So I just took a 1-inch by 1-inch piece of cardstock, made my little tick marks at the 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch, and then cut a shape similar to this. And what I did was I scored a line right through the center and at the 1/4 inch mark to mark where I wanted to punch my hole. So I'm just going to grab my 1/8 inch hole punch and place that inside the template there and punch. And this will just make the top of the box line up really nicely. Okay, now I've got those holes punched. Let's get the template out of the way. And now we're going to go ahead and do folding and burnishing. So what I want you to do is do kind of mountain folds on the top and bottom tabs. And then those horizontal lines in the center, we're actually going to do valley folds. And now on the diagonals, we're going to do those as mountain folds. And the diagonals are much easier to fold and burnish after you've got the tabs cut. So it really allows you to get those right where you want them to be. Okay, so now that all the folding and burnishing is done, watch the magic happen. As we kind of put this into place, you'll see that magically all of those facets, because of the way we folded it, go into place. Now this is where we've got that really cool seam that happens here on the side. So we're basically wanting to just line up those little pointed edges to the other side. I've kind of rolled this into a tube, and we're going to glue those into place using some multi-purpose liquid glue. So the easiest way I've found to do that is to put glue into the triangle on either side, and we're on the inside of the box here, and this diamond. And then we'll just kind of gently put this into place, and it should make sense exactly where you're going to put it. You just want to make sure you're lining up kind of the same direction of the paper and the score lines, and then just press into place. And there we go. That's a really cool seam there. It's harder to notice because it's got the little zigzag. So now we're going to start to put together the bottom of the box. And I'm just going to pay attention to where the seam is and have that kind of be the first tab that we fold in. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put together the bottom of the box, and we're just going to do this one tab at a time. And because of the way that we cut it, those tabs are going to line up pretty nicely, and this is going to make the shape of a pentagon on the bottom. So I'm just going to start And I'll put glue on the first one. I'm just kind of putting it right at the edge there and then folding it over to the tab before it. Just kind of lining up those edges there. That'll kind of help square up this pentagon bottom here. And I'll just work my way around. Okay, and then to finish off the bottom, I'm just gonna punch a little 1 1/4 inch circle from Daffodil Delight. And then we're just gonna put some glue on that and adhere that to the bottom. Just makes the bottom look a little bit nicer. There we go. We got a nice little finish on the bottom there. Now we're going to do a little bit of stamping before we start to assemble the box top, which is the most exciting part. I have a little 1 inch by 3.5 inch strip of Whisper white paper. The first thing I'm going to do is bring out the Simply Scored again. I'm going to go ahead and score this at 1 inch. And then I'm going to rotate it and do my little tick mark at 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch. And again, we're going to finish off the top here just like we did our tab. So cutting from the tick mark to the horizontal score line. We're having another rainstorm here in Georgia, if you can hear that in the background. Okay, then I'm going to bring back my little template again and we'll punch a hole. And this is just going to make it nicely line up on the top of our box. All right, so I'm going to give this a banner end. I've got the triple banner punch. I'm going to feed the opposite end into there and punch. Super cute. And then I'm going to grab the sentiment "Thank you very much" from the Bunch of Blossoms stamp set. And we're going to stamp that in Early Espresso. There we go. All right, so next from Old Olive cardstock, I'm going to punch out a daisy from the Daisy Punch. Then I'm going to grab my 1/8 inch circle punch and I'm just going to punch right in the center. There we go. All right. Then the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to grab about a 7 to 8 inch length of the Daffodil Delight double stitched ribbon. And then I'm just going to tie a knot at the end. All right, so now we've got our pieces and parts to put together. So I just want to pay attention to where the seam is, and that's going to be the back of our box. So one of these two we want to be the front. So one of them I'm going to adhere the sentiment. So I'm just going to put some glue here on the back on this top section and just line that up on one of those two front tabs. Now do the same thing with the daisy. So this one will close second to last and this one will close last. So we're going to start with this tab here. Fold these out of the way. Now all I'm going to do is feed this Daffodil Delight ribbon up through the hole. So it's coming from the inside out. Pull that through, and we're just going to go around the circle. Same thing, just feeding it up underneath through the inside out to the top. All right, so let's go ahead and fold on that sentiment there. And then I'm just going to pull up these leaves, fold them up to the top to create our little pineapple leaves there. How cute is that project? This would be so awesome for party favors, for little hostess thank yous, little thank yous for teachers. I love this project and I'm so inspired by Martha Inchley's project. I just had to make one myself. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my next video. If you're interested in purchasing any of the Stampin' Up! Products I used in today's video, they'll be linked in the description. And I'll also include a link to my detailed blog post where I'll have all project details and measurements and a picture of the template that I shared today. I'd love to have you come visit me at thepaperpixie.com where I post projects every weekday to inspire you. And I have options to subscribe to both my newsletter as well as my daily blog updates, and I'd love to welcome you as a new subscriber. You can shop with me anytime at thepaperpixie.com/shop. And if you're interested in earning a discount on your Stampin' Up! Purchases, I'd love to have you join my team of Paper Pixies. And you can purchase the starter kit at thepaperpixie.com/join. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Take care. Bye.